Hello, welcome back to Insightful Inspiration. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into a topic that I'm sure many of you have encountered, overthinking. It's something that can creep up on us when we least expect it, taking over our minds, making us feel stuck, and preventing us from being truly present in our lives. Before we start, I want to remind you that overthinking is something we all experience, but with the right tools and mindset, we can learn how to manage it. So let's take a journey into understanding what causes overthinking and how we can free ourselves from its grip. Now think about the last time you caught yourself overthinking. Maybe it was about a conversation you had, replaying the words in your head, analyzing how the other person might have interpreted your tone. Or maybe you were worrying about the future, imagining every possible outcome of an important decision. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why does our brain become this overactive machine that won't seem to shut off? Let's unpack it. Overthinking at its core is the mind's attempt to feel secure. It's a survival mechanism, believe it or not. When our ancestors faced real, physical dangers, like predators or natural disasters, our brains evolved to focus on problem solving to ensure survival. Over time, this problem-solving instinct became deeply ingrained in us. But in today's modern world, most of us don't face those life or death situations anymore. Instead, the threats we perceive are psychological or emotional. Our minds don't necessarily know the difference, so they react by overthinking, as if analyzing every angle will somehow protect us from harm. For example, let's say you're preparing for a job interview. Instead of just reviewing the facts, your brain might spiral into imagining what the interviewer will ask, how they'll judge your answers, or whether you'll get the job. Instead of calmly preparing, you're now stuck in a loop of what-ifs. The brain is trying to protect you from rejection or failure by preparing for every possible scenario, but in reality, this only increases your anxiety and makes it harder to focus. A key cause of overthinking is uncertainty. As human beings, we crave certainty. We want to know what's going to happen next so we can plan, prepare, and protect ourselves from pain or discomfort. But here's the thing. Life is full of uncertainty. It's unpredictable. And no matter how much we analyze a situation, we can never truly control every outcome. Overthinking is our brain's misguided attempt to create certainty where there isn't any. And the more we try to predict or control the future, the more anxious and stressed we become. Think about this. Have you ever had a night where you couldn't fall asleep because your mind wouldn't stop racing? Maybe you were thinking about a conversation you had with a friend earlier in the day, replaying it over and over. You start questioning whether you said the right thing or if your friend took your words the wrong way. You imagine all sorts of responses they might have had, even though the conversation is already in the past. This is a classic example of overthinking triggered by uncertainty. You're unsure how the other person feels or what they're thinking, and your brain is working overtime to fill in the blanks. Now here's the tricky part. Overthinking doesn't just stem from uncertainty about the future. It can also come from dwelling on the past. Have you ever caught yourself ruminating over something that happened weeks, months, or even years ago? Maybe you're replaying a mistake you made or regretting a decision that didn't turn out the way you wanted. This kind of overthinking, also known as rumination, keeps us stuck in the past. And the more we dwell on past events, the more we reinforce the idea that we should have done things differently. But here's the truth. No amount of overthinking will change the past. All it does is rob us of the present moment. One interesting thing to note is that perfectionism is a huge driver of overthinking. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that perfection is the ultimate goal. We're taught that we need to get things right the first time, every time. But here's the reality. Perfection doesn't exist. It's an illusion. When we hold ourselves to unrealistic standards, we set ourselves up for failure. And when we do fail or fall short, we begin to overthink every step of the process. What could I have done differently? Where did I go wrong? Should I have said or done something else? Perfectionists are particularly vulnerable to overthinking because they believe that any mistake is a reflection of their worth. Think about the pressure society puts on us to be perfect, whether it's in our jobs, our relationships, or even our physical appearance. Social media plays a big role in amplifying this pressure. We see carefully curated images of other people's lives and we start comparing ourselves. We wonder why our lives don't look as flawless as theirs. This constant comparison fuels overthinking. We begin questioning our own choices, our appearance, our success, and our happiness. And the more we compare, the more we overthink. But perfectionism isn't just about comparing ourselves to others. It's also about comparing ourselves to an ideal version of who we think we should be. We have this internal image of what perfect looks like, and when we don't measure up, we start overanalyzing our every move. We wonder if we're good enough, smart enough, successful enough. And this inner dialogue of not enoughness keeps us trapped in overthinking. Low self-confidence is another major factor that contributes to overthinking. When we lack confidence in ourselves or our abilities, we're more likely to second-guess our decisions. Have you ever made a choice and then spent hours or days questioning whether it was the right one? That's overthinking driven by self-doubt. Instead of trusting ourselves, we look for external validation. We seek approval from others because we don't believe in our own judgment. But the problem is, when we rely on others for validation, we give away our power. We become dependent on their opinions, and if they don't respond the way we want them to, we begin to overthink. Imagine this scenario. You're at work and you've just completed a project. You feel proud of your work, but you're also nervous about what your boss will think. Instead of feeling confident in your efforts, you start second-guessing every detail. Did I include enough information? Did I format it correctly? Will my boss be impressed? You hand in the project, but instead of feeling relieved, your mind starts racing. You begin replaying the entire process in your head, analyzing every step, wondering if you should have done something differently. This is overthinking fueled by low self-confidence. Instead of trusting your abilities, you're seeking reassurance from others, which only increases your anxiety. So how do we break free from this cycle of overthinking? The good news is it's possible. The first step is to recognize when you're overthinking. Often we don't even realize we're doing it until we're deep into a thought spiral. But the moment you become aware of it, you can start to take control. One of the best ways to manage overthinking is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment. It's about observing your thoughts without getting lost in them. Let's try a quick mindfulness exercise. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Now bring your attention to your body. Notice how it feels in this moment. Are you holding tension anywhere? Maybe in your shoulders or your jaw. Let it go. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Notice how the air feels as it enters your lungs and how it feels as you exhale. This simple act of focusing on your breath can help ground you in the present moment. When you're focused on your breath, you're not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. You're simply being. Another powerful tool for managing overthinking is setting time limits for decision-making. Overthinkers often struggle with making decisions because they fear making the wrong choice. But here's the thing. Most decisions aren't as high stakes as we make them out to be. Setting a time limit forces you to make a choice and move on. For example, if you're trying to decide what to wear for an event, give yourself 5 minutes to make a decision. After that, commit to your choice and don't look back. By setting boundaries around decision-making, you can break the habit of overanalyzing every detail. It's also important to challenge your thoughts. When you catch yourself overthinking, ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Often we overthink scenarios that are unlikely to happen or that we have no control over. If you're worried about a meeting at work, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And then ask, what's the best that could happen? This helps bring perspective to your thoughts, allowing you to see that the situation may not be as dire as your mind is making it out to be.